The mystery behind death. Hidden truths. You die every day, but you don't know it. While you sleep, your soul leaves your body. It travels, it experiences things, and it returns before you wake up. You don't remember, but it happens. And there is a specific reason for this, a purpose that institutional religion never wanted to explain. Welcome to Holy Enigma. Death is the most misunderstood thing in humanity. People think it's the end, that it's darkness, that it's nothing. But ancient texts describe death in a completely different way. Death is not the end of life. It is a transition, a moment where you move from one state of being to another. And there is evidence of this in near-death experiences documented for centuries. People who were clinically dead and came back describe remarkably similar things, despite living in different times and places. A tunnel of light, brilliant beings, indescribable peace, access to complete knowledge. These descriptions are so consistent that they cannot be coincidence, especially when they come from cultures that never met. The Bible itself mentions this. Paul speaks in 2 Corinthians 12:2-4 about being taken to the third heaven and hearing inexpressible things. But it doesn't explain what it means. Why? Because it couldn't. Because if it did, people would understand. And understanding leads to freedom. And freedom is dangerous for religious control. Now comes the true mystery. There are 3 layers of death that ancient texts describe, and which the church deliberately hid. First layer, the death of the physical body. This is what everyone calls death. Your organs stop, your heart ceases. But there is more. Second layer, the death of the ego. When your soul leaves your body, you leave behind every identity you built. Your name, your profession, your social status, all of it was an illusion. Your true identity, your spiritual essence, is exposed. And here's what's shocking. Most people never learned who they really are, only who they pretended to be. Ancient texts call this the brutal awakening, and that's why death is scary. It's not fear of darkness, it's fear of seeing yourself truly. Third layer, the death of time. When you die, you stop existing in temporal sequence. You don't experience time the way you did before, because time is a construct of material reality. In spiritual reality, everything exists simultaneously. Your past, present, and future are all there, seen at once. That's why many people in near-death experiences describe knowing everything, or understanding the meaning of everything. It's not that they receive new information, it's that they begin to see the totality of what was always there. The Bible tries to describe this in Revelation 10:6, and he swore by him who lives forever, that there would be no more delay. But nobody understands what it means, because human language is insufficient. Now comes the question that frightens. If there are other layers of death, are there other layers of life too? The answer is yes. You exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. But your consciousness is trapped in this one. When you sleep deeply, your consciousness disconnects from this material reality. You astral travel. You interact with other realities. You learn. You experience things. And when you wake up, you don't remember, on purpose. Because if you knew, life here would be different. You would understand that everything is temporary, that everything is a lesson. And again, enlightened people are hard to control. Ancient texts call this the divine sleep, a state where you are learning while your body rests. But there is more. There are moments when you die completely during life, not physically, spiritually. These are moments of absolute crisis, when you feel you can't continue anymore, when you think about giving up, when you experience psychological death. In these moments, something extraordinary happens. Your true essence, that part of you that transcends ego, takes control. And you are saved by yourself, by your own soul. Most people call it a miracle. Some call it survival instinct. But it is much deeper. It is divine self-rescue. Your spirit saving your life. Now comes the final mystery, the most important one. Why doesn't anyone remember past lives? If you have an immortal soul, if you have reincarnated multiple times, why don't you remember? The answer is in Matthew 13:12. Whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. It means consciousness is increased progressively, not given all at once. If you remembered all your past lives, it would be overwhelming, it would be chaotic, it would be unproductive. You would be stuck in the past, unable to live the present. So God, or the universal law of the universe, erases your memory with each reincarnation. But your soul remembers, your instincts remember, your karmic connections remember. That's why you feel inexplicable attraction to certain people. Why certain places call to you. Why certain fears don't make sense. They are soul memories, not mind memories. And ancient texts, especially the Gnostic ones that were burned by the church, describe this in detail. They speak of cycles of reincarnation, of progressive learning, of spiritual evolution. But it was all classified as heresy, destroyed, forgotten. Why? Because if people knew they had multiple chances, multiple lives to evolve, they wouldn't have urgency. And urgency is what keeps people trapped in fear. Now, after all of this comes the most liberating truth. Death is not punishment. It is promotion. It is not the end. It is the conclusion of a chapter. It is nothing to fear. It is everything to understand. Because every death, every transition, brings you closer to complete understanding, to becoming one with the divine, to evolving spiritually to a state of being where pain, fear, and separation no longer exist. This is enlightenment. This is nirvana. This is heaven. And we are all walking toward it, whether we know it or not. Death does not separate you from God. Death brings you closer. So instead of fearing death, understand it. Instead of running from mystery, enter it, because the mystery behind death is the mystery of life itself. And when you understand death, you understand why you are alive. Comment: what is your greatest fear about death? What would you like to understand? And if this opened your mind, if you want to explore more of these deep mysteries, subscribe to Holy Enigma. Because the truth is hidden everywhere. You just need to be willing to look. Death is the final transition, but it is not the end. It is the beginning of everything that matters. May your journey be illuminated.